Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Burnout Bible. My name is Alex, and today we will be discussing the different levels of burnout. Friendly reminder that I am not a therapist, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a board certified anything. The levels of burnout are just something that I created to help me on my own journey managing and recovering from burnout. Point being, if you go to your doctor or your therapist and you're like, I'm experiencing this level of burnout, they're gonna look at you and be like, that's not a real thing. In fact, that sounds like something a YouTuber on the internet came up with. Because it is. Okay, so before we get into the different levels of burnout, I'm going to talk about how the different levels came to be. So in my healing journey, I had this moment of like gut rotting despair, this like sinking. It was like I was sinking into mud. The idea being I was also being like buried alive as this was happening, this like horrible, horrible moment. Let me tell you when that was. It was when I learned about energy accounting. Energy accounting is a system. It's a tool used in the neurodivergent and disability communities especially, but it's where you literally just account for how much energy you have, right? Do you have a little energy? Do you have a lot of energy? The idea being this is information that you then use to plan your day, to help you adjust your different priorities and expectations for yourself, depending on whether you're having a low energy day or a high energy day, right? It makes sense. And it seemed like a really helpful and useful tool to me. And so I started using it by trying to just account for how much energy I had. But as I started to account for how much energy I had, I very quickly realized that I was in the negatives, which is something none of these energy accounting practices accounted for. And that's where that horrible sinking, buried in mud feeling came from. It was just this kind of moment of like, oh, okay, so I'm doing like so much worse than everybody else because all of these resources, the bottom level is low energy, implying that you have some energy to spend. They're like, even if you only have a little bit of energy, here's what you can do. And I'm like, I am accounting for how much energy I have. I am looking and feeling, and it's in the negatives. And some days it's a little bit in the negatives, and some days it's a lot of bit in the negatives. And I felt like I never even had low energy. Like I never even had a few points to spend. And so I had a crisis, as one does. And then I had my Elle Woods moment, and I got it all together, as one does. And so I just decided to create my own scale of negative energy, because just like a low energy day versus a high energy day is really different, a sort of negative day versus a very negative day is very different. So the different levels, at least of the system that I use, right? I was like, so if it's high, medium, and low energy with like a 0 right there, right? I was like, then I would put it at fatigue, burnout, and then major burnout. If you're following along with the Burnout Bible series and just want to go ahead and create a note in your notes app, I would recommend it. I would title it Levels of Burnout and then just kind of write out high, medium, low, 0, and then fatigue, burnout, major burnout. Why not, right? So now I had a way to account for my different negative levels of energy, because a fatigue exhaustion day is very different from a major burnout, I'm having the bad thoughts again day. Something vague like, I don't know what's wrong, but I feel bad. Important to know, great first step, but ultimately not helpful. I don't know what to do about that. I'm having a fatigue day. I'm having a burnout day. Okay, well, if I'm experiencing burnout, then I need to prioritize rest and healing. I need to lower my expectations for myself. And I need to adjust my priorities accordingly. So if you think about it, like in combination with my last video, the priorities resource, different levels of burnout means maybe you only focus on your first priority, maybe 1 and 2, depends, it's up to you. And then my next set of videos are all going to be about cleaning. And I'm going to say things like this system, this strategy is really useful for a fatigue day versus this system and strategy is really good for a low energy day. Because it's very different if you have energy to spend versus if you're in the negative. Even if you're only a little in the negative, you still need to get things done. But how do you do that? What do you do, right? And so I'm going to be using this language a lot in the upcoming videos, which is why I'm bringing this up now. Even though it may not make too much sense right now, the more you use it, the more sense it will make. And so right now I'm really just introducing the language. As far as how to measure the different levels of burnout, it's just like any other form of energy accounting, where there's multiple schools of thought and multiple approaches that you can do. I divide it into 2 systems where there's hard energy accounting and then soft energy accounting. Hard energy accounting being like a numbers-based system, soft energy accounting being like a vibes-based system. So for hard energy accounting, you could do just like a general points-based system. I have 3 energy points. How do I spend them today? There's also spoon theory, which is also a points-based system, but instead of points, you use spoons. You could also measure things by usable hours. So I have 15 minutes today. I have 2 hours today. Or you could do soft forms of energy accounting, which is what the levels of burnout are, fatigue, burnout, major burnout, just kind of like a vibe. Whenever I was in the throes of burnout, I felt like I was underwater. Right? This was like a really big thing for me where I felt like I was at the bottom of the ocean. And so, to get up and go get a glass of water from the kitchen, I had to heave up out of bed and then walk to the kitchen, and I'm under the ocean and there's just all this pressure and weight that makes it so much harder. And so that was like a system that I used to help me measure, where I would, I'd be like, oh, the water's only ankle deep today, or I'm underwater, but I'm only a couple feet underwater. And I think if I push myself, I could get my head above water. And the levels of burnout may not be a real thing, but energy accounting is. So you can look into it on the web if none of these are sparking for you. Burnout Bible, I am simply providing you with a ton of tools, all the tools that I have. And then you just want to see what sparks that day, what sparks action, what gets you to do things, what helps you that day. So that's all I have for today. The next stretch of videos are going to be all about cleaning. I'm really excited for that because I'm someone who struggled with cleaning a lot. And so a lot of Burnout Bible is about creating the resource that I wish that I had. And so I am really excited to share this with you and hopefully help literally anyone. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Burnout Bible content. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.